tell me about black elk then?
Yeah, well, black elk, when he was standing with Jack Neidhart on top of the mountain as an old man, cried and said he failed and his heart was broken because the hoop of the nation is the flowering stick, and the flowering stick is dying, and he wanted to save it, and he couldn't save it, he thought. And this is the flowering stick he's talking about, which is the hoop of the nation. It holds us all together, and it's dying. And we can save it if we want. Well, this is an ancient woodland that has been looked after and hand managed up till about maybe 30 years ago. So all the coppicing work and all the felling was done with the axe. And when you use an axe, the axe seals the tree as it cuts through. It closes the wood, and thus the energy doesn't continue to leak out of it. When you start felling with chainsaws, you leave all the pores open. But so that's a part of the trouble, when they brought the technology into the wood. But the other part is what the farmers are doing all around this woodland. With the open fields and the farming, the water table around here is dropped. We used to live in a house over at the back of this wood, and we used to get the water from the well. And eventually the water got lower and lower in our well until we were told we mustn't drink it anymore. And then it disappeared out of the bottom of our well, which was about 25 feet deep. Of course, when the water disappeared out of the well, that meant the groundwater around here had sunk below where our well could access it. And so, of course, the tree roots all live within that depth of 20 feet or so. And so the water gradually is leaving the roots of the trees, and so underground they're getting no resupply from below. And because of the open fields all around, no water around is getting into the ground. Because of the farming methods, the sun seals the surface of the earth, the water no longer gets in, and in a forest, 90% of that water goes straight into the ground. On a farmer's field, 0% of that water goes into the ground. It either goes down the slopes and down and down and down until it hits the towns or whatever, or it evaporates back into the sky. So you've got trees dying of thirst while the rain is pouring down. And the outcome of it all is what you're seeing around us here in this wood now, which we're coming to film. You can sort of see in any direction in this woodland. Where there's no leaves and no twigs, it's like the bronchioli in your lungs. This is a mirror of your lungs, and they use it exactly like these trees use it. So this is your air supply you're looking at, and this is what's happening to it. Plan coming to pieces. There's a knock-on effect for all the animals who come to this woodland, because a sick tree makes sick flowers and it makes sick fruit. So the bees, the stags, the badgers, all the creatures of the forest that use this forest for their food supply, this is what they got. This should have moss and dampness. I mean, we've had good weather for that. Everything is so dry on this tree, and the bark, I can just pick it off, you see, look. Because it's so dry. It's a stage of what you're looking at all around. The root underneath is rotting, the moisture is not getting up the centre of the tree properly, and the bark is starting to dry out. So when this tree gets a cut, there'll probably be no sap to come out of the tree to heal the cut. That's what happens to these old trees. And then gradually, as it dries more and more, the bark loses adhesion to the trunk of the tree and lifts up. And we'll go and look at one in a minute which has done it. And then the insects get under the bark and start devouring and hiding from the birds and so on. And our experts say, this insect here killed this tree, or this fungus over here killed this tree. But actually it's the fact that the roots in the ground are receiving no moisture and they're dying, and in the summer they're like powder, and in the winter the smell of them is like mushrooms. And the reason for the forest fires is because when the branches of these dying trees rub together, they ignite the own dry fungus core inside themselves and ignite themselves. It's not people doing it, it's the trees themselves. I mean, this tree is dead, obviously so. But what's happened is the centre's dried out. There's no sap flowing up here, so the bark is dried out, and then eventually cracks appear in the bark here, all over the tree, and then it starts to lose adhesion. The insects get in, and as you can see on the bark, these little trails here, there is beetles eating away at the old tree. So the experts come along and they take a sample of the beetles and put them in a jar and take them off, or the fungus and so forth. And they say, oh, this is what killed the tree. But it isn't. The tree died because the roots died, the tree dried out, the top dried out, the bark fell off, the tree's dead. Underneath the ground the roots rot. I don't know here, let's have a look. You see the roots themselves under here, underneath the tree. You see, when you cut the tree down, if you cut the tree at ground level here, you'll have a solid rig. If you dig the root up and look underneath, that's where the rot is, in the ground. Above ground here, you can see with the rot here, look. With the rot there, I mean, it's just rotting it. Rotting at its base. So you're seeing less and less moisture getting up to keep everything green. And there it is. It's like a cycle thing. The older trees fall, the trees that are excluded from light fall. The forest is always growing and falling and growing and falling. So yeah, there's always things going on similar to this, but when you get it all over the country, when you get on your television screens, you look at the trees in Washington, you look at the trees in Beijing, you look at the trees anywhere, Australia, and you're looking and seeing what you're seeing in this woodland here. Thin crowns, thin canopies. If you're seeing that, this is what you're looking at. And this is a global issue, a global problem. It's going to take all of us to fix it. And as Viktor Schauberger said, there ain't too many people on this planet, there's not enough, because there's a lot to be done. And everything we do benefits us. We get better fed, we get better environment, we get a better society. So out of this ashes maybe something good will grow. That's the hope of it, isn't it? That's why I'm here, and that's why I think you're here.